Now I want to talk to you about the next section of the lesson. This is a sculpture or a statue of Lady Fu Hou. She was one of the many wives of Shang Dynasty King Wu Ding, who we previously spoke about. Unusually, she served as a military general and a high priestess, but we have very minimal evidence left about this because this predated the invention of paper and there are no surviving records. The reason I wanted to mention who she is because one of the items that was found in her tomb was this ivy beaker. It's a beautiful object. We think it was created in circa 1200 BCE. Formally speaking, it's a concave tube. It has inlaid turquoise, and the handle certainly has references to a bird's beak. And I think if you try to look carefully just within the turquoise inlay on the beaker itself, you can see some kind of zoomorphic faces of either people or animals. Again, they're very symmetrical and that kind of Teodi style that I mentioned previously. And this, even though that was made of ivory, we're going to see a similar design pattern to that on the bronze vessels from the Shang period. Again, this Teodi kind of, it's more like a design of a face with all these scrolls and organic lines. Faces are horned, or heads are horned. There are typically staring, prominent eyes, very symmetrical. Typically, there's some kind of body represented, and it's sometimes stretching horizontally or side to side. And since I showed you that ivory beaker, I want to address the idea of ivory and the kind of moral implications behind it. So in Lady Fu's case, this was a local luxury item. Ivory is a carving done from an elephant's tusk. You might be wondering, well, did elephants live that far north in China? Well, China was warmer 3,000 years ago, and elephants did live much farther north than they do right now. So in order to obtain the elephant's tusks, poachers kill elephants to harvest their tusks, basically take their tusks. And so as long as there's a market for ivory, elephants will continue to be killed for their tusks. And there's a huge movement, as you can imagine, to stop the sale of ivory, to stop poachers from killing elephants. And if ivory is discovered, it's actually burned and destroyed so that it will be devalued. And so people won't keep buying and selling and trading and importing it. It's a popular item in China, and so it's continually, a problem today even. Of course, ivory beaker, like the one we looked at from 1200 BCE, it doesn't have the same ethical challenges. It's unfortunate that elephant was killed, but that was done a long time ago, and so antique dealers don't really have an issue with, or don't see an ethical issue with buying and selling ancient pieces or older pieces made from ivory, but it's definitely something to be conscious about. And I just wanted to show you this. I thought this was really interesting, and my daughter pointed this out. She read an article in National Geographic about the fact that elephants are actually evolving to be born without tusks, which is so interesting to me. I love this idea of evolution finding a way to succeed. So elephants there's a rare breed of tuskless elephant. It's a genetic trait. And since those elephants that aren't born with tusks have a better chance of surviving, because poachers are not trying to harvest ivory from them, because they survive so well, about a third of surviving elephants' daughters have no tusks. So there you go. Survival of the smartest, I guess. Okay, circling back to the Shang dynasty, bronze items like this vessel, they were found in tombs of both genders. They were buried with owners so that their powers could continue with the owners after death. We know that these were used for food and wine sacrifices. And interestingly, inscriptions are found both inside and outside the vessel. And so the thought might be that the inscriptions are inside the vessel because while the ancestors, drink or eat from them, they're able to read that, and that's a message directly to them. And this is an image of molten bronze in its liquid state. And I just want to speak a little bit about Shang Dynasty bronzes. The vessels were not signed by workshops or the makers. We know very little about the artisans other than they were highly skilled. And we do know about the process that was used to create these bronzes. So the earliest Chinese bronzes were made by the method known as piece mold casting. This is opposed to the lost wax method that was used later. And it was used in all other Bronze Age cultures in other countries around the world. But this piece mold method, and you can kind of see this diagram here. So basically the mold that would either be used or disposed of, the mold would have the reverse of the shapes in it. And then it would be pieced together and then clamped together so that the molten bronze could then be poured into it. And notice that the object is upside down while the molten bronze is poured.